Hello and welcome to another episode of Cloudy with a Chance of VMware. My name is Aki Anastasiou, and it's a great pleasure to welcome, I don't know, I hear the rumor, this is VMware South Africa's power couple. Sumeeth Singh, who's the cloud provider business lead for Sub Saharan Africa at VMware, and Syse, who is the cloud technology lead for Sub Saharan Africa at VMware. Are you guys really the power couple at VMware?
I wouldn't go as far as the power couple. I'd probably drop the couple, but probably the cloudy couple. The cloudy couple. Let's go with the cloudy couple.
Team instead of the couple.
Let's go with the team. Let's go with the team.
Listen, guys, it's so good to see you again. And it's incredible when you look back and you look at the adoption that has taken place. How would you describe where we are since this pandemic has started from a cloud infrastructure point of view, from a cloud migration point of view at VMware? What have you guys seen over the last 18 to 20 months?
So, Aki, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, to say the least. Yeah. And I think what's triggered a bit of that roller coaster is what I've called the COVID cloud catalyst.
Yes.
So it's entities, companies, businesses, some at different maturity levels from a cloud adoption perspective, but everybody needing this need for rapidly available infrastructure in order to fulfill the needs, be it work from home, be it accelerated digital transformation journeys, etc. So there may have been a lot of plans that were kind of in place, but this has really fast-tracked the adoption from a cloud perspective.
And Lee, what about you?
I think from a technology perspective, it lends itself to what Sumeeth was actually speaking about. What I've realized over this whole pandemic and lockdown specifically, we've seen the adoption of technology actually accelerate. And where I think that really came from was the fact that customers had the need to actually utilize newer technologies to speed up the processes of things like adopting the work from home strategies and so on. So I've been spending a lot of time with the cloud providers actually modernizing their platforms, leveraging newer technologies, getting that in place to prepare them to cater for this customer demand that was actually now present.
Cool. So look, I actually want to make this like more cloud for dummies, because I see myself as a bit of a dummy when it comes to because there's so much change that's happening, right? And I remember attending my first cloud conference like almost 2 decades ago, and I was trying to understand what on earth was this that you guys are doing? And then you guys started with virtualization, and I got even more confused, But I'm looking at your titles: Cloud Provider Business Lead. In 10 seconds, what do you do? What does your title do?
So I think in terms of a role, so we have an ecosystem, a partner ecosystem of about 60 partners across Sub-Saharan Africa that are offering cloud services back to industry, backed by VMware technology.
So somebody like Dimension Data,
as an example, would be building out a cloud platform, a localized private cloud platform that they've built, backed by our technology, that they then offer to end customers in a consumptive manner.
Okay. Now, Lee, you a cloud technology lead.
So it's an interesting one, because at the end of the day, what we actually do is business modeling. That's essentially what our role is.
Right.
We partner with partners like you mentioned, Dimension Data as an example, and we support them and assist them in actually building out the cloud-hosted platform. But not only I'm responsible for the architecture, the technology, and so on, but we also dive into things like how do they productize their solutions? Once it's productized, how do we take those services to market?
Yeah.
What services is it actually adopting, or is it supporting at an end customer base? How does that extension of their platform actually work into an end customer's platform? So we see our partners as an extension of us. We represent our partner ecosystem. Without them, we aren't successful, because we're good at creating technology, but we're not a cloud service provider ourselves. We need our local partners to fill in that gap, to actually operate it and manipulate and actually take that service to market.
Because you see, the reason I asked you both that question is because the cloud 15 years ago versus the cloud today is a completely different story. There's a lot more complexity, and you basically help your customers on the journey to the cloud by advising them on what you need, because everyone's got different stuff. You hear about legacy, you hear about storing your data in the cloud. I mean, there's just so many different facets to the cloud today. You guys help to make it a lot simpler, right?
So I see us, Aki, as enablers to our partners to deliver that cloud service back to end customers, right? From a cloud provider perspective, our cloud providers understand their territory. They understand the locality of the business. They understand the unique local needs that our end customers require from a provider.
Right.
So to Leah's point, we see them as an extension of ourselves, where we support them from a technology and a go-to-market perspective, but it really is about them delivering cloud services back to the industry in a manner that our local industry wants it, understands it, and is able to transact it.
Yeah, so it's actually, you're helping build something.
And it's an interesting one, because at the end of the day, if we look at how cloud service providers operate as opposed to public clouds, a lot of the time there's this gray line that is actually there. If you go to a public cloud as an example, as a customer, everything is your own responsibility. You have a portal to do everything.
Yeah.
Not saying it's much different in the cloud provider space. There's also a portal to operate your infrastructure, operate your workloads, your networking, and so on. But a lot of the time, partners, because they understand the local market, they understand where the gaps are in the local market, they go a bit further in a manner that they actually assist customers in utilizing the platform, sometimes as a managed service, sometimes just part of their service that's bundled.
Yes.
So customers, I think, are enjoying the fact of going to a local service provider for getting the assistance that they need. It might be simple things in certain circumstances. It could be complex things,
right,
without actually having to contract to another partner to always get that managed services or professional services element to help them operate their platform.
Now, VMware is a very interesting company. You're part of Dell Technologies, and on your own, I mean, it's following the success of VMware all of these years, started off as a company that does virtualization. When you have virtualization, you have VMware. Why VMware? And what is so unique about VMware in this journey to the cloud that you guys talk about?
So I think from a VMware perspective, VMware, as you rightfully mentioned, was the pioneering technology company bringing virtualization to the fore. And at the time, it was something that was not really easily conceptualized as well. This notion of running multiple workloads on a single piece of infrastructure was far beyond its years for the time that it was available. And I think we've really grown a lot and moved more into this multi-cloud strategy and a multi-cloud story, where VMware can now be seen as a multi-cloud company, and that bears testament to the partnerships we have with the large hyperscales as well. So it really is about providing those cloud services now. I think we've moved beyond virtualization as just our go-to-market, and it's really about enabling business to drive business agility, business transformation, backed by underlying cloud practice.
So what I'm hearing from you is like there's not one size fits all. So, companies traditionally will have, a stack there, they'll have cloud infrastructure there. What VMware does is you combine all of this together and you're offering a bouquet of flowers as opposed to just one flower, right? Is that a fair analogy?
And I think if we had to expand to that analogy, it's also vertical segment related as well.
Yes.
If you look at the technology we build, yes, virtualization or compute virtualization was the first technology we actually took to market and was our claim to fame. But at the end of the day, if you look at the technology sets that we're building, if it's a telco type customer, we've got technology sets that's specific to a telco type customer that accommodates their business model. In our business for cloud services provider, there's technology that's specifically meant for them that we don't actually sell to end customers.
Yes.
If you look at a networking organization or networking partner to help them take their services to market, we've got very specific technologies that would fit for or would be fit for purpose there as well. So from an organization that had one product that we took to market to an organization that's actually expanded quite dramatically, we've grown as an organization, and I think the people that works for VMware as well is also growing. Think of the Tanzu portfolio that we're working with at the moment. That's a new dynamic we needed to get used to, and we're quickly adopting and growing towards that type of dynamic to actually take those services to market aggressively.
Look, at the end of the day, guys, it's all about data, right? It's all about where the data sits. We hear of hybrid cloud, we hear of private cloud. I mean, there's all sorts of different clouds, and this is why we've called this cloudy with a chance of VMware, right? Because you're going to get a high chance of VMware on whatever cloud you're on, right? But here's the thing. When you talk about data, everyone's talking about it. Data is this new currency that all organizations are working on, but yet there are concerns with data. We hear of lots of breaches. That security side is something else completely. But here in South Africa, for example, we've got, the POPIA Act, There's data sovereignty that we often hear about. Where does your data reside? So data is quite a complex issue. And I'd love you guys to talk about, data sovereignty versus data residency, because that's really a very hot topic.
So quite right, Aki. And you touched on data being the new currency. I'd expand on that and think data is the new economy.
Yes.
Right? And it's about businesses being able to now garner value from the data as well as trying to monetize data. And that's a topic on its own. But you touched on something that's very, very relevant, and that's around data residency versus data sovereignty. And the two topics are often conflated and at times used interchangeably. However, they have two distinct definitions. So data residency speaks to data locality. Where's the data located, right? And that speaks to data being in country or being located in a local data center or in a local hyperscaler, for instance.
Right.
Data sovereignty, on the other hand, speaks to the jurisdictional control of that data.
Different rules.
This is where we're seeing this slew of new acts that have come to market. The US Cloud Act,
GDPR. Oh my gosh.
The Patriot Act. South Africa, in fact, recently launched the draft policy around the Cloud and Data Policy Act, which is following quite closely in terms of what's being done in the EU as well as in the US as well.
Yeah.
And I think customers and organizations need to start really asking themselves around who has access to my data. And this is where VMware cloud providers really come to the fore, because they offer a sovereign cloud. And we as VMware have seen this as a huge need and launched our sovereign cloud initiative, where end customers now have that comfort of knowing that their data is sovereign in a VMware cloud.
Data is sovereign in a VMware cloud. I love it.
And I think it's just to expand a little bit.
Are your customers telling you the same thing, Lee? I mean, with data, does data keep your customers awake at night in terms of where the data is sitting, who has access to the data?
It's an interesting thing, because I've actually had somebody tell me, or ask me the question of why is this whole sovereign thing becoming an important aspect again? I thought we passed the days of worrying about that.
Yeah.
And it's actually customers that's driving this demand, and it's also government institutions that's driving this demand. It's not us that's saying we want you to be sovereign. It's customers that's coming with that requirement, and we're accommodating to that. So yes, definitely we are seeing that. And what we're starting to do now is to build a lot of specific architectures for our cloud providers to make sure that there is that level of sovereignty. Because sovereignty, I think, can come to different levels. It's how is the data protected, encrypted, where it sits, who has access to it. There's many aspects to it as well. So it's definitely something we're working hard towards and something that we're catering towards. And just speaking about the US Cloud Act and the Patriot Act, yes, we're an American organization, but our cloud service providers' clouds is not our cloud. It's their cloud, they're local in country, it's their operating model.
There's a big difference there.
Yeah, it does make a difference.
A fundamental difference, yeah.
Gents, hold that thought for just a second. We'll continue this conversation. Really looking forward to it. Don't move anywhere. We'll continue this conversation talking about the cloud, the complexities, what you need to do. It's, as you can hear, it's not an easy process, but these guys make it a lot easier.